Can you guys hear that? This weather, I swear. Hi ladies, welcome back to my channel. For those that are new here, my name is Chantel Rousseau, creator and founder of the lifestyle blog simplychantel.com, and today we are going to discuss, as you can tell from the title, the 5 things that I wish I knew before I made the move to London, England. So if you are new here or unfamiliar with my journey, I will feed in the other video, which is my first video of why I decided to move to London to begin with. For those that don't know, I'm originally Canadian, specifically from Mississauga, Ontario, and I moved to London almost 2 years ago. Let's get into it. London in all its beauty and tea and diversity and fun. There are a few things that were really jarring when I first moved here that I wish I knew before I moved. Now, none of these would have made me change my mind, but it would have been nice to have a little bit of preparation. Also, if you're interested in these kind of videos, let me know. If you have any other questions about my move here and what it's been like living here, comment down below and let me know what other videos you'd like to see. So first off is the commute. I get it, we're in a big city, and anyone that is a city dweller or even a very sprawling suburb, which is what Mississauga is like, traffic is a thing. London is different because London, being such an old city, such an old country, England and the UK in general, is that it wasn't really set to develop further. So when you're in like the core of London, so north, south, east, west, whatever, especially central, it's not really set up to accommodate traffic, let alone accommodate cars. It's a Victorian city, carriage and buggies and all that kind of stuff. So there isn't really a quick way of getting around. It will easily take you minimum 30 to 45 minutes to get anywhere. That's a minimum. There is motorways, what they call motorways and Canadians call highways, and I think Americans call freeways. There is a motorway, but it's outside, so it's not really inside the city, versus most, especially in North America, because it's a lot newer, it was developed in a different way, so you can cut through cities. You can't do that in London. If I want to go southwest to northwest, I'm just taking the road all the way up. There is no way to get around. That can be extremely frustrating. Of course, there is the train. I think most people would say that second to Tokyo, the London Underground is one of the best. I know people here complain about it because they're from here, but I always say you have no idea what a poor subway system is because you've never been to Toronto, where you're not getting very far on the tube station, and you've never been to New York, where it's constantly breaking down and it's also very disgusting. But the traffic is insane. When I moved here, I was always late. I'm still late, but now I'm late because poor time management. But I was always late because I was like, how, if I'm only going 2 kilometers or 4 kilometers, how could it take me this long? And through trial and error, I realized no, it in fact does take that long to get everywhere. So if you are someone that does prefer to drive around, even if it'll take you a long time, black cabs are incredible. They are not like your average taxi drivers. They are very, very, very well versed. I know everyone would say, oh, taxi drivers are very well versed, but there's something about a black cab driver that is bar none. I believe there's an extensive training that they go through before they can be deemed an official black cab driver. It's by far the most comfortable cab experience I've ever had because obviously the cars are made very differently. They're very unique. They're 5-seater, 2 and 3 facing each other. So it's amazing when you've got luggage and stuff like that. It's better than any cab, any town car, whatever. That's my opinion. However, they are very expensive, and with the beauty of Uber, you can really see the difference in price because Uber is not always expensive depending if it's surging or anything like that, but black cabs on average are more expensive. So just be mindful when you're here, especially if you're a tourist and you kind of want that experience, save it for a really quick, run up the street or something easy breezy. But if you're taking the car and you're really trying to get around, Uber is your best bet because black cabs are great if you're lost or you want advice from someone who knows London through and through. But if you're just trying to get from point A to point B, go with Uber. Okay, this one is gonna be short and sweet, and I'm sorry, I'm the privileged Canadian that moved to a much larger place, but it's filthy. I've never lived in New York. I know that New York can be quite dirty as well, and there are like little bits and pieces of Toronto that can be pretty dirty, but I lived in the city for many years, and I find London extremely dirty. For example, I live in a house, and that's divvied up and stuff into flats. At home in Canada, in Toronto, you take out the garbage, you either put it into a dumpster, whatever, and then the garbage men come. There's like a forklift that picks up the dumpster, throws it into the truck. So when you live in a house, it's different. You put your trash to the curb, and sometimes it's in bins, sometimes you just put it, you know, garbage bag to the curb, and that's it. In London, the homes have what they call like a little garden. It's not really a garden, but some people design it and renovate it, and some people don't. They just put garbage bins there. You put your garbage in the garbage bin, and the trash man comes out once a week. But what they do, and I don't know if it's all of London, but in my area, what they do is the trash man, so there's 2 in the truck, or 3 or whatever, one will come out, take the garbage out of all the bins, put it on the curb, and he'll do that all along the block. And then they'll put the garbage in the truck. I guess because of that gap. I don't get it, but it makes for trash. If you're moving garbage from one place to another, there's a likelihood that it's gonna spill, garbage bags are going to break, things like that. And then they don't clean up the mess, they just leave it as is. One thing you also notice is when you're in central London that sometimes garbage cans are hard to come by. Listen, if you're in a city, the further and further apart garbage cans are, the more likely that 2 things are gonna happen. People are gonna litter, or 2, when you do find a garbage can, it's going to be full. I believe there was a terrorist act not too long ago, or maybe it was a while ago. Anyways, where someone put a bomb in a garbage can. So I know that that contributed to less garbages, but it's dirty. It's hard for me. Like, I thought Toronto was like a big city, and it's not. Okay, so my last 2 are actually about housing. Landlords definitely have more rights here than tenants do, and that's not something that I'm super used to. In North America, I would definitely say that tenants have more rights than landlords do. The standard lease says lots of crazy things that landlords don't really have to be in charge about. Random pests and stuff like that. You're responsible for that kind of stuff in your house, which I'm so not used to. I've also been really privileged. When I lived in Toronto, I had amazing landlords. I never had an issue with any of my landlords. They always took care of things. I never had to argue with my landlord or like threaten him or her, whatever. I never had those problems. And I haven't had those issues here, but the standard lease is very different. They require that rent to be paid on standing order, which is basically like automatic withdrawal out of your account every month. Obviously, that's not how we do in North America. You either pay by check or you bank transfer on the day. It's common practice that once you re-sign a lease, the rent will go up. That's not really the case in North America, at least in my experience in Toronto. If you're a good tenant and you decide to stay, chances are the rent is not going to go up. The landlord's not going to do that to you because they would rather have a good tenant than have to find someone else. In North America, in Toronto, if you finish your lease and you don't message your landlord and your landlord doesn't message you, you will just automatically roll into a month-to-month lease. That's the way it works. Here, it fluxes and flows, so it depends on your landlord, but chances are, like, they would come to you and they would either ask for a new negotiation, or you would ask for a new negotiation, or the lease would be up that day. And some landlords don't even require 30 days notice. Like, you don't have to give notice that you're leaving even though your lease is up, versus in Toronto, even if your lease is up, you still have to give notice that you're not going to stay. It's just a little different. I've had good landlords, but I have seen that some are not as proactive, and the idea that your rent will go up after the term is over is very likely. And my last point is something called, actually it's like 2 points in one, is something called council tax. This was another like what the hell moment. Essentially, council tax is tax that you pay for your council, which is your borough. You know, there's many boroughs in London, you know, Lambeth, Wandsworth, Chelsea, Kensington, Fulham, like tons of boroughs. You pay taxes, and those taxes contribute to the health and state of your borough. So, you know, cleaning up the trash, parks, trees, blah, blah, blah. Similar to in North America, what a homeowner would pay property tax. Now, property tax is never billed to a tenant directly. If you are a tenant and you pay rent, whatever property taxes that you or the landlord wants you to pay will be built into your rent. You wouldn't even know about it. It wouldn't even be a line item, because that is not an expense that tenants pay. That is something that landlords pay based on the property value of their house. And, you know, depending on your mortgage, you can bill your property tax into your loan. So you just pay it with your mortgage, or you can pay taxes separately at the end of the year. Like, it's all very different. But In North America, that is none of your concern. It has nothing to do with you, and it's not even something that would be on your radar. In London, that is 100% your responsibility. And on top of that, this is how they gyp you. So if you have a home and the home is split up into different flats, those are considered different individual properties. So it's like living in an apartment building versus if you lived at a home in North America and you did have to pay property tax, they wouldn't separate every single room with their own property tax. The house would just have to pay one property tax versus here, every single flat has to pay their own property tax. And they separate it, that you have to tell them what kind of household you have. So if you live alone, if you live with children, how many adults live there, how many children live there, so on and so forth. And that's how your property tax is populated. And it is 1000% your responsibility. And if you don't pay it, there's absolutely hell to pay. It affects your credit. It will likely affect you being able to get other property in the future. Like, it is a big deal. And it's also crazy because depending on where you live, property tax can change dramatically. There's different classes. So class B for Wandsworth is £617.55. Wandsworth, I think, is known in the UK, or at least in England, for being one of the more lower property taxes. Then you go Lambeth, which I believe they're next door to each other, and the same class B is £1,124.05. That's a huge difference. And it doesn't matter how nice your place is. It doesn't matter like how fancy you live. Like, if you are a single resident, blah, 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 that is what you pay. So imagine if you are trying to live bare bones. It's not enough to just think of how much I want to spend in rent. You also have to be very mindful of which borough you live in because it'll absolutely affect your monthly costs. Council tax is paid monthly or quarterly, I can't remember, but you can set up direct deposit and whatever, but it absolutely affects your costs. If you are moving to London, it's more than just your rent, you know, your water, your gas, electricity. Be mindful of the borough that you live because it can be a difference of hundreds of pounds every year. So that's it, guys. I know that this wasn't super salacious, but it was very like random things that I definitely wish I knew when I moved here to help me plan a bit better and to not run into a lot of issues that I did run into, like being late for meetings, having a council tax like letter come in the mail and me being like, huh? Some other little tidbits also, smoking is a lot here and it's even more so on the mainland continent, and that's a huge issue for me. I hate running into secondhand smoke. I hate having to like move past smokers to get into a building. And North America, at least over the last decade, has really done a lot of work where there's enough like propaganda when it comes to smoking. So smokers know that you can't smoke right in front of the door. You have to be in a designated smoking area. Smokers, I feel like in North America, are very mindful of non-smokers. So they're not going to blow in your face, or they're going to keep their distance, versus in Europe, it's not like that. We are smokers. We have rights. We can do what we want. Like, we are just everywhere. And that is something that was very hard to deal with in the beginning, and it's still a bit of an annoyance for me just because, like, to me it's my health and I can't stand it, but it gets better with time because you know how to like navigate. But it is definitely a thing. I hope you guys like this video. If you are curious about my life in London and how my experiences with things, or anything else that you're curious about, I would love to make more videos. I just don't really know what to talk about. So let me know if you have an idea. I would love to hear it. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do that and like this video if you enjoyed it. It really helps the channel and it helps to let me know what you guys love watching. Be sure to follow me on Instagram because I update on their daily stories and feed, and I would love to see you there. And until next time, everyone, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. I will see you in the next one. Bye.